Hello, America. I've been struggling with some issues regarding some of the policies that have been in the news, specifically DACA and Dreamers. I'll go into that. You know what? And actually, let's go ahead and begin there right now.
All you have to do is stay a minute, just take your time. The clock is ticking, so stay. All you have to do is wait a second. Your hands on mine. The clock is ticking, so stay. All you have to do is stay.
The center for everything that is political and American. You're listening to The Garrison Douglas Show.
Welcome to the program, everybody. This week has been tough. First, let me just say I hope everyone had a good and happy Labor Day weekend. I try to. There were some moments that were great. There were some moments that were good. But this week has been tough. Because I failed myself this week. I failed to fully, not just fully, I failed to make the attempt to fully understand the situation regarding with DACA and Dreamers. I've never promoted myself to be a person who has the right opinion on everything right away. I don't claim to be the fastest. But what I do claim, or at least strive to claim, is to critically think, look at everything on the table, and come to the most accurate and well thought out opinion that can possibly be made. I don't like to be clouded by emotions. I don't like to be clouded by the screaming and hollering that happens on both sides. I like to look at things critically. Look at all the facts. And then I weigh them also. I'll admit I do weigh them against my own values. I try to create a balance. Because that's what makes us human. I'm not a robot. I don't try to be a robot. I try to be the best human being I can. And so, when President Trump announced that he was going to be rescinding DACA, I wasn't shocked at the action, but I was caught off guard. I was caught ill prepared to talk about what happened. I failed to have a position. I know that the day it was announced, social media erupted with opinions from the left and the right. Opinions of those who were for DACA, opinions of those who were for Dreamers, for those who were against Dreamers, against DACA. A lot of people had opinions. I did not. I had a reaction, but I didn't have an educated opinion because I failed to prepare myself to have an opinion. So some of you had went to the Facebook page, the Facebook group or Facebook page to see if I had said anything about this. And you would have seen that I had posted nothing. I had nothing to say because I didn't know what to say. And that horrified me. That day, I stayed up all night in my dining room trying to wrap my head around an issue that affects nearly 1 million immigrants in America today, if not more. I knew the numbers and understood both executive orders. Executive orders from President Obama in 2012 and the executive order that President Trump would eventually write. I've heard the stories of dreamers who are in this country right now doing great things. Yet, I sat there in the darkness, complete and utter darkness, bewildered. How come I do not have an adamant position on the matter? This is what I ask myself. How come I do not have an adamant position on the matter at hand? My body was torn. Physically torn. My heart at the moment was, and normally always is, tied to my Christian values. And my mind is tied to my conservative values, which are often based on looking at an issue critically and with no real emotion. I know this. I go through life like this because I know that I have a bleeding heart. My heart will point me to jumping in front of a car to save someone's life. My mind will weigh the options. It will try to find a way out. It will try and find a way for both of us to survive. So on this issue, I know my heart says that no child should be punished for the sins of their father. It says it right there in my Bible. Deuteronomy 24:16. So right there, that's enough for my heart to say that these folks, the dreamers, need to stay in this country. But my mind was asking if this is somehow bigger than the dreamers. While these children were illegally brought here against their will by their parents, they are still immigrants who came to this country illegally. They came here and resided here illegally. Their very presence spits in the face of those who have toiled and saved every cent they had to bring their family into this country legally. These families fought through what we all know is a broken immigration system. And yet they are all legal residents today. So what statement are we making to them? That's what I was asking myself. What statement are we making to them? Thank you for going through the proper channels, hiring an attorney, paying our massive immigration fees, and waiting for your possible approval to enter this country? Unfortunately, as you can see, none of that was really necessary. Is this the message that we want to send? Is this the message we are sending? I wasn't sure. I didn't know. But my heart my mind, while looking at that issue, was looking at another angle of this issue, a legal matter. I was trying to look at this from a legal perspective too. I cannot say definitively that President Obama's executive order is unconstitutional, because the Supreme Court has yet to rule on it. However, it doesn't sit well with me that the President of the United States of America can direct a U.S. departmental agency to stop enforcing the law. So that poses another set of questions. By keeping DACA in place, are we not just expanding presidential power? Where does it end? As most of us know, hopefully all of us, the legislative branch makes laws, and the executive branch faithfully executes them. That is how our system of government works. That is how the founders designed our system. Checks and balances. And while we all, a lot of the time, become frustrated with that process, it's what's helped us survive as a nation for over 200 years. So ultimately, we all know, and I know, that Congress should be the entity that's dealing with dreamers. But while my mind was doing mental gymnastics to try and come to some sort of agreement or a decision, my heart sent my mind a mental note and asked it to consider another question. What have the dreamers been doing that hurts you or the country you love? My mind hadn't considered it at that point, but my heart had. So my mind went through the process of answering it, trying to come to a conclusion. I realized that they have committed no felonies in this country. They commit no crimes outside, of course, their immigration status. Dreamers have a high employment rate. It's been estimated to be 91% employment. This also includes schools. They have an average wage of over $17 an hour. They're ineligible for Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, or any welfare programs. So they're not mooching. And because of their wage, they aren't eligible for a lot of tax breaks that you and I take for granted. A lot of them are serving in our military. According to the Pentagon, nearly, I believe it's between 800 to 900 Dreamers are in the military right now. Others are serving in our fire departments, rescuing victims of Hurricane Harvey in Texas right now. Others are in police forces and hospitals, serving as nurses and doctors. And through all of this, I've realized that they are contributing more to American security than I am personally. And possibly even more than you. So after sitting for hours in the dark, mentally and emotionally sparring with myself, I eventually came to a ceasefire. My mind and heart had come to make a decision. They had come to an agreement with one another. The Dreamers came to this country illegally. Plain and simple. They've resided in this country illegally. They broke the law. And there needs to be a reasonable penalty in place. However, this penalty, I believe, has been instituted and is currently being paid for, if not already paid for. Nevertheless, even through paying their penalty, this alone does not make them Americans. By birth, they are not Americans. But we made them Americans the moment President Obama took his pen and signed his executive order instituting DACA. And I believe that reversing such an action and removing that status without any sort of congressional replacement is cruel and unusual. And I want to be as clear as possible. I am not saying that President Obama's executive order needs to stay in place. Nor do I embrace the position of declaring all undocumented immigrants as citizens of America. My point is this. These folks broke the law. But due to the circumstances in which this law was broken, we must balance our punishment. I believe they are paying for their sins as we speak. By entering the DACA program, they are admitting to their crimes and paying the penalty. And I believe that through paying this penalty, they deserve to stay in this country. However, this can and should only be decided by Congress. I agree that the executive order should be rescinded, but the humane and responsible way of doing so would have been to push Congress to act, and then, when they do act, rescind the executive order. Ultimately, this situation falls into my universal comments on Washington politics. We need to do better than this. There are lives on the line right now. Soldiers' lives, police officers' lives, firefighters' lives. These people's lives deserve a lot more than an executive order that can be put in place and rescinded at any time. There is nothing that I can find that says that these people are a threat to our country or our national security. There's nothing about this law, or the DREAM Act in particular, that encourages any more illegal immigration. And I believe personally that if we package the DREAM Act with increased border security funding, then there is a lot more that we can accomplish. I believe that this is a cakewalk, or should be a cakewalk, if we're all being honest with one another. Like I said, I disagree with DACA. I don't believe in DACA. I do not support DACA. But I sure as heck support dreamers. And I will stand by them. I will fight alongside them. Because in my opinion, in my heart, and now my mind, I believe that they deserve better than this. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Garrison Douglas Show.
T-Mobile's Unlimited now includes Netflix on Us. That's right, Netflix on Us. Get 4 unlimited lines for just $40 each, taxes and fees included. And now, Netflix included. So go ahead, binge on Us. Another reason why T-Mobile is America's best unlimited network.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Let's talk about something that kind of in the news, but not in the news. Depending on where you get your news, you may not be following what's going on the University of California, Berkeley's campus. UC Berkeley, the home of freedom of speech. If you don't know what's going on, allow me to tell you. There is this gentleman who I follow quite often. His name is Ben Shapiro. He is from the Daily Wire. He is actually the editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire. Former editor over at Breitbart, Steve Bannon's organization, but he is someone who I've grown quite fond of in the recent months. I've always kind of paid attention to him from time to time, but sometimes he can say things that might be a little harsh, or I'm going to say it. He is harsh at times. And sometimes it turns me off from the conversation. But oftentimes he's speaking pure facts, no matter how hard it is for anyone to hear. Of course, this is something that has inflamed millennial liberals, actually. I mean, I'll be specific, because he is a conservative. He ticks off millennial liberals, specifically college students. And so he, in light of all the stuff that's been going on, has decided to speak at UC Berkeley. He was invited by a student organization to speak. He did not make the request. He was invited and accepted the invitation to speak on the UC Berkeley's campus. Now, we all know what happened last time conservatives entered UC Berkeley. They darn near burned down the entire campus. I do not understand why they allow UC Berkeley students to have matches. That is something that bewilders me. It makes me scratch my head. They should not even be allowed to have metal forks. Everything should be plastic. Because their reaction to things is beyond my comprehension. And part of this isn't even just the students. It is the faculty who the faculty and administration who coddles these students and lets them live in this world where everything is rosy. Last time I checked, there are people in Florida who are getting ready to face a hurricane, and there are people in Harvey who have lost virtually everything. Life is not rosy. And right now, I am hearing news that UC Berkeley is going to be offering counseling sessions for students who are offended by hearing Ben Shapiro offer mainstream conservative views. He is not going to be saying anything outlandish. And you do not have to go to the speech if you do not want to. This is a speech that Ben Shapiro is making on September 14th to a few hundred students for a couple hours in an auditorium. And so they're offering counseling. And now, in a campus-wide email that came out yesterday, Berkeley's executive vice chancellor and provost detailed steps the university is taking in order to try and keep things on the campus from devolving into chaos, because he's coming. And in these steps, they've announced that they are going to be shutting down buildings. They're making arrangements to meet unusual challenges, is what they call it. So they're going to be shutting down multiple buildings and parking lots to create a closed perimeter. They're going to provide alternative options for faculty, staff, and students so they can try to engage in their regular academic activities without fear of violence erupting. And they're imposing special restrictions on tickets and IDs. And fourth, as I said before, they're offering support and counseling services for faculty, staff, and students. My goodness. Why is this only happening to, why is it only happening to liberals? I don't get this. If you guys were listening before, I think a couple weeks ago, I had Kyril Sims on from Liberty University. And her class, her campus, those students were mandated to go to convocation where Bernie Sanders spoke and Donald Trump spoke and Ted Cruz spoke. A lot of Democrats, Ben Carson spoke. A lot of Democrats, or a Democrat, not even Democrat, an independent socialist who is pro-life, pro-choice, super pro-choice, wants to take most of these students' families' money from them, isn't Christian, goes onto a Christian campus spouting off socialist and unchristian-like ideals to these students, to their face. They were forced to go. And the last time I checked, they were not offered counseling for that. There was no need for counseling. Students did not fall out from that. They were not triggered by what happened. So why is it every single time we see conservative speakers go onto a campus, it creates a tizzy and a freak out among the administration and student body? I cannot see what Ben Shapiro said. Folks, you may not have remembered this story. You may not even heard of it. 45 minutes down the road from me is a school called Emory University. And in 2016, during the election, someone had gone onto the campus and spray painted or wrote in chalk everywhere, whatever. I think they wrote in chalk, Trump 2016 on the ground. The school fell apart. The mere sight of Trump's name in chalk, washable chalk, sent students to therapy. To me, this isn't even about freedom of speech. That's something I don't think we're ready for that conversation yet. I don't think these individuals are mature enough for that conversation yet. Because the very sight of a presidential candidate's name sent them to therapy and allowed them to miss class. And now they're shutting down buildings, creating a perimeter so that a 33-year-old conservative can speak to a few students. It is absurd to me that this can happen. And if you guys don't already know how I feel in this matter, then heck, I don't know what to say. Because I'm for freedom of speech. And I have listened day in and day out, every time I'm in class, to the craziest statements. I saw today on Facebook a woman saying that the government is sending hurricanes to kill black people. Did I fall out and need counseling? No. I laughed and said, oh, I disagree with her. In fact, actually, I said she's crazy. And I moved on with my life. I'm doing the podcast right now, aren't I? I lived. I survived. This ordeal did not scar me. I'm going to read you guys quickly the email that was sent out by the university president. This was sent out, this was sent out by the executive vice chancellor and provost. he had said, "Dear UC Berkeley community, this is an important time for all of us as we work together to uphold our commitment to free speech and to our principles of community, including respect for the dignity of all members of our UC Berkeley community. I recommend that you consider viewing Chancellor Christ's recent Berkeley Forum speech and the QA that followed. Today I write about specific comments we are making to support our community, as well as to share logistics and security arrangements for September 14th. That evening, from 7 to 9 p.m., political commentator and radio talk show host Ben Shapiro will speak at Zellerbach Hall at the invitation of one of our registered student groups. Our commitment to free speech, as well as to the law, mandates that the students who invited Shapiro be able to host their event for those who wish to hear him speak. Our commitment to those principles mandates that all students, faculty, and staff be able to be present on campus, engaging in their regular academic activities without fear. Achieving this poses unusual challenges for us. This memo lays out the arrangements that we are putting in place. At 4 p.m. on September 14th, the UCPD will establish a closed perimeter around Zellerbach Hall and surrounding buildings. Buildings near Zellerbach Hall will be closed at 4 p.m. with no access permitted. The perimeter will be assembled over the course of the day, starting in the morning. And then it goes to the list of the buildings. There will be a limited number of access points along the perimeter. Beginning at 5:30, a ticket to the event will be required to gain entry into the perimeter. Parking will be closed all day on September 14th at Barrow Lane parking spaces. Pepper Tree Lane parking spaces, and North Sproul Lot and the ASUC garage. And alternative options for those who work in closed buildings. Because, in fact, they're closing these academic buildings, they have to give accommodations. I'm not even going to go through it. This frustrates me, folks. If I was leading this school, I would send out one video and say, my students in the UC Berkeley community, get your crap together. A man is coming on to our campus, and he's going to start saying some stuff. And if you don't like it, too bad. If you can't handle it, don't go to the speech. But we are all grown adults here with jobs. And if you, ladies and gentlemen, cannot handle a speaker coming onto this campus, then I, as your university leader, as an administrative member of this campus and institution, has failed to prepare you for the future. So we will do nothing. We will do nothing to shield you from what is being said today. And if I catch a single protester get out of line, if I catch a single one of you trying to interfere with this speech, you will be kicked out. You will be suspended. Or so help me God, I will personally go to Sallie Mae and have your financial aid revoked because you do not deserve to be in college. End of transmission. That is what is needed. Because these students do not need to be coddled. They do not deserve to be coddled. If you cannot handle Ben Shapiro coming on and saying your views on being pro-choice are based on a lie, and that puts you in tears, or better, cutting taxes for everybody makes America better. Does that make you cry? If that makes you cry, you got a problem. Better yet. How about this one? Trump is the President of the United States of America. Ah, there we go. Now I know I got some tears. I got some tears there. If you cannot handle this speech, do not go to the speech. Plain and simple. End of story. Forget about it. Go drink some Jamba Juice. Go to the library. Study for your quiz or exams that are coming up. This is a big campus. I've seen it. There's a lot of things you could be doing. Go to a party. Get drunk. You're probably doing that anyways. You're probably going to the protest drunk half the time anyways. Do anything you want other than go to the speech. You have that right. We cannot continue to go down this path, folks, because I, without a doubt, am a member of the weakest generation in American history. At this age, there were people entering who were drafted to go to war. And we are setting up a perimeter decades later so that a conservative can talk on a campus to a couple hundred students without the campus burning down. We got problems, folks. We got problems. Here's what I know, folks. We have a lot of issues on our hands. Legislatively, politically. We have societal issues. There's a lot of things. But there are other things that are more pressing immediately. As we know, Hurricane Irma is going to make landfall in Florida quite soon here. In Georgia, my home state, is going to hit us as well, and more likely it's a tropical storm. At least in my particular area, and a hurricane in some of the southern parts of Georgia. What I'm saying is that please listen. If you are in Florida, if you are in Georgia, please listen to your local officials. I am pleading with you. If you are in a mandatory evacuation zone, please leave. There is nothing in your house, there is nothing in your apartment that is more valuable than your life, your family's life, your children's life. You can always rebuild. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. But you are not bigger than a hurricane. If your house won't make it, you probably won't make it either. So there's no need to stay. Get out while you can. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great weekend. You're listening to The Garrison Douglas Show.
All you have to do is stay a minute, just take your time. The clock is ticking, so stay. All you have to do is wait a second. Your hands on mine. The clock is ticking, so stay. All you have to do is wait.
The center for everything that is political and American. You're listening to The Garrison Douglas Show.